Hey everybody, Dustin Schmidt here again. I'm a DP and photographer here in Oklahoma City, and today we're going to talk about the Canon C80. So let's get into it. So it seems like new cameras and price drops and releases and all kinds of stuff just keep happening just about every other week at this point. And I've meant to make a whole bunch of other videos, but these come out and I have opinions on them just like everybody else all across the internet. And I think I have at least some input that might be helpful, especially on the Canon C80 from somebody who owns and works with other Canon cameras. I've got a Canon C500 Mark II that I shoot with all the time, and I've got a Canon R5C that I shoot with. So the Canon C80 sits right between those two, and so it's kind of within the realm of what I would use or could use regularly, and I want to talk about some of the things I like about it, maybe some of the things I don't. Again, as an owner of Canon cameras who works with them every day, is this a camera I would buy? Why or why not? And maybe if that helps you as you're trying to make some of your choices. So the other thing I've got going on, if you're wondering what the heck is up with some of this background, we'll try to make this not just maybe about the Canon C80, although I will concentrate on that. I'm in the middle of prepping for a 3-camera shoot coming up here in about a week, so I've got 3 cameras set up to do some camera matching and some other stuff. Like I said, I've got the C500 Mark II over here. I've got the R5C, and I've got the red Komodo actually for this main talking camera. So as I'm cutting between these, as we're talking about the Canon C80, I'll probably touch on a couple things regarding having matching cameras or the same cameras or cameras from different brands, and if that even matters. So you can look at these as we're cutting in between. Do you see a big difference? Is this something that your clients are going to see a big difference in? Do you need to buy a new camera? Maybe. Okay. So first off, just generally, right? Canon releases the Canon C80. It's an upgrade to the Canon C70. Essentially the same form factor with some additions that are very welcome to people. Like the SDI port, which people complain they bolted on, but who cares where it is as long as it's on there. Actually, a lot of people like the location just because of how easy that makes it to hook it up to an external monitor. Personally, I think it's in a good spot where it is. There's a lot of other new ports and things that they put on there, an Ethernet if you need that, USB-C, I believe, some other stuff. We're not going to get into all the specs. We're going to talk more general stuff here because there's plenty of spec videos out there. But what really makes your life easier, I think, as a DP, cinematographer, owner-op, what are the things that you need? And I think that SDI is probably the biggest one. People were getting by with the HDMI on it, but everybody wants SDI, and the fact that now you have both makes it even better. You know, one of the other great things, maybe the flagship kind of thing that this has, is that it's a 6K full-frame camera now. And the old C70 was Super 35. You could use a speed booster and get up to a full frame field of view. So that was helpful, but now you have the full frame built in and you can cut down to Super 35 if you want to within the camera. And that is actually a huge thing. That's something that I do quite a bit on my C500 Mark II because I have some other lenses that are Super 35 only lenses. So I think the ability to punch into Super 35 when you have full frame is super underrated if you're a pro who needs that feature. And if you have Super 35 lenses, that gives you a lot of options. And I'll give you an example. Let me grab one here. So this is the Canon 18-80. It is a cine-servo lens in that it has a little servo here on it that allows you to zoom. It also has, a couple other ports and things in here. This is not going to be a review of this lens, but this is a great lens in that it's parfocal, it's image stabilized, has a pretty good range on it. It's an 18-80, has manual iris, manual focus, manual zoom, or you can switch it over to auto. It's just a really great lens. And if you have a Super 35 camera, it's even better. Now, the flip side of that is it won't really fit on full frame. You can put it on there, but you really only have a usable range from maybe 50 to 80. It doesn't cover full frame. But sometimes I don't need full frame. What I need is what this lens gives me, which is the range, the IS, and some of the other stuff. And the ability to punch into Super 35 from a full frame sensor lets me do that with this. So because of that, and because this is an EF lens, I like to use this on my C500 Mark II, which has built-in NDs and things like that, so it's not really an issue on that camera. But I can also use it on something like my R5C, which is a full-frame RF mount camera, but does not have built-in NDs. Because this is an EF mount lens, I can put an EF to RF adapter that has NDs in it, a variable ND, and still have a relatively small package that lets me use a lens like this. So that's a big bonus. But that's more of the full frame versus Super 35 thing. Not so much a Canon C80 thing, since that's RF. So this is a lens that would work really well on the Canon C80 as well. You would have to punch into Super 35 and use an EF to RF adapter, but you could utilize the internal NDs on the C80. So that ability to go between full frame and Super 35, something the C70 did not have, is a huge advantage. It really is. So what do I think about the C80 from the perspective of somebody that owns the two cameras that kind of bookend that camera? I own the C500 Mark II, which is a step probably over the C80, depending on how you look at it, certain features. And then the R5C, which is a full frame and Super 35 RF mount cinema camera, but it's their hybrid camera, right? And so I would probably say that is a step down from the C80, unless you need the stills capabilities, in which case it's great to have the hybrid. I also do stills, and so that's why that's a good camera for me. Now, if I wanted to get something in between, something that is relatively small or smaller than a C500 Mark II, uses the same batteries, there's some crossover there, but is more of a video specific camera, then it's C80 probably all the way. I think if you're looking at a C70 and a C80 to figure out which one you want to buy right now, if you can afford the step up, definitely buy the C80. I know the C70 has the DGO sensor, all that kind of stuff, and people talk about how technically that sensor is a little better. Maybe it is, but I don't know that you see it as much in real world usage. I used to operate a C300 Mark III all the time. That was a camera I had when I was back at agency, and that was a fantastic camera. Loved that camera, had great dynamic range. I haven't noticed a big difference in working capability now that I'm using the R5C and the C500 II to do two camera shoots. The R5C is maybe less dynamic range than the C300 III, which is the same sensor as the C70, has never been an issue on any jobs at all. So I don't think the maybe comparison of dynamic range between the C70 and the C80 is even something you should be thinking about. You should be thinking about the usability, the different modes, the ports, the things like that make your life easier in production. The C80 apparently has the exact same sensor as the C400. Supposedly the C400 sensor is very good. It's a new backside illuminated, gives you some benefits in terms of speed of focusing, dynamic range, some of that stuff. Really what you're kind of looking at is, did Canon do something that Sony does all the time, which is kind of cannibalize their own lineup and release a camera that has a lot of what the C400 offers at a lower price point? And they kind of have. And if you need the features the C400 offers, then that's what you're going to get anyway. It has more ports, more capabilities in that way. But if you're purely looking at image, the C80 is apparently going to have the exact same image really as the C400. Now you don't get the frame rates, you don't get some of that other stuff, but there's a lot of benefits there. If you're just shooting a standard kind of like 24 frames a second, you're doing interviews, not too much slow-mo type stuff, then the C80 is a slam dunk maybe over the C400. Save yourself that 8K versus 5.5 and use that money for something else, I guess. Again, speaking of the 6K sensor, everybody's really going with more pixels nowadays. It's 6K and it's 8K. We're not seeing too many cameras come out that are 4K unless you're getting the the Alexa 35, which I think is like 4.6K or something like that, which is a whole other realm really of cameras. And it's not about pixels really. People always say it's better pixels, not more pixels, and that's partially true. But the increase in pixels does allow you to do some stuff that you can't do with an HD or a 4K image. And I really shouldn't even say HD because nobody's making HD cameras anymore. Although I have seen quite a few now, Alexas, used Alexas and things on there. And I've always wondered, hey, should I buy an Alexa? It's only an HD 2K camera, but has a fantastic image. And for the image, I probably would. But what I probably wouldn't do it for is for the increased power consumption, all that kind of stuff. That's a whole other topic. Maybe I'll make a video about getting a used Alexa or something down the road here. Some of the other features, the slow-mo is kind of one of the big knocks they've been talking about on the C80. It does a cropped in slow-mo for, I think, the 120. I've asked this question before, and really the thing is, how much are you using the 120 on a daily basis on any of your cameras? I think unless you shoot a lot of food or product stuff and you need that max frame rate, and all the true food and product stuff is not even shot, it's shot well beyond 120. Those are a lot of like phantom shots, or maybe you get a V-Raptor that has high frame rates. But how much do you really need the 120? So if you're somebody who is using 120 like every single time you go out and shoot, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know. I do a reasonable amount of slow-mo too when I'm doing the B-roll corporate-y thing. I almost never shoot 120 because it's so slow. It takes so long to play out. And really, I need to be moving on to whatever the next shot or something unless I'm really trying to illustrate whatever this slow-mo shot is doing. So typically I'm shooting like 48, maybe 60 max when I do the slow-mo B-roll stuff. So, and all the current cameras that I have will kind of hit that mark for me. Komodo's a little slower, but I'll shoot 48 with it, whatever. And it works great. In closing, am I going to go out and buy a Canon C80? No, I'm not. Just like I'm not going to go buy a C70 or any other of that form factor of camera. And the reason why I'm not is because I own a Canon R5C. That is doing that job for me that a Canon C70 or C80 would do in terms of a smaller form factor cinema camera. And so I don't need to go out and buy another one. And I already own 3 cameras. And I think as we get into this cycle of things costing more and more, subscriptions, just that constant suck and drain on revenue when it comes to being a business owner, is that I'm really in a spot right now where I want to own the stuff I use for the most part, unless it's something I need to rent. But I'm not in a cycle of always trying to buy the newest brand new thing to further put myself or my business in debt. I want to buy something that's going to work, that's going to go out and make money, that's going to get the job done for the client, that has a good image, or is a good light or a good piece of grip equipment or whatever. And then I want to work that equipment and use it to make money, and stop continually trying to drain my account to the point where I'm always in debt or always need to pick up some new business to pay for some new toy. I would rather focus on the creative concept of what we're trying to do something new and fun there, to worry less about what camera's going to capture it, and to really just put the tools to use and express creativity through the tools instead of focusing so much on the tool itself. And I know I've got a lot of videos on here about the tools because I still love talking about that, but I don't want that to be the main focus of how I conduct my business. For the purposes of this is for YouTube, this is for fun. I love talking about it for fun and on YouTube, but it's not the primary driver of my business to continue to just buy new stuff and be in debt. I want to own the things that I use to make stuff. So right now I've got stuff that's paid for, so I'm not buying a C80. But if you need one and you can afford it, then you probably should. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.